I think everything begins with intention. When we set a willingness to experience something in a loving way, something far greater than us supports us to have that. And I know I've set intentions like that around other areas of my life. And I watch my clients set these intentions, and it really makes a big difference, even to the degree that, if at the very least, if they just wake up every day feeling a little bit more optimistic because they're choosing that it be easy and kind today.
Welcome to the Thriving After Divorce podcast, where you learn the secrets to reclaim your life and turn your breakup into your breakthrough. Transformation expert, internationally published author, and online show host Tanya Marie Dubé will help you quickly pick up and move on as you tune into interviews with some pretty cool experts from around the world, showing you how to live your best life after divorce. If you're ready to learn the skills to finally put your divorce behind you for good, dig down really deep, and step into your highest self, then you're in the right place. Here's your host, online educator and mom of two, Tanya Marie Dubé.
Hi, welcome back to Thriving After Divorce Radio podcast. This is episode number 2. Today, I am so happy to bring you Katie Phillips, who has founded the School of Self-Love. She is an author, a personal coach, transformational retreat leader, and inspirational speaker. Katie has dedicated her life to teaching what she had to learn. Her opportunity to teach, inspire, and motivate others is her opportunity to grow and evolve even more. Katie is devoted to living consciously, connectedly, and courageously, and it is these 3 principles that has formalized her school curriculum. So in this episode, we talk about all things self-love, what it means to stop being codependent, and how to truly create a life that you love. I want to remind everybody to stick around until the end. Katie does have a free gift. It's absolutely wonderful, and we talk about it towards the end of the interview. So please enjoy, and let's welcome Katie Phillips.
Hi, Katie. It's so good to have you here. I'm thrilled to interview you again. How are you today?
Hello, I'm very well and very glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Let's get started with what you do and what led you to this work.
So I founded the School of Self-Love. And, for a long time, I've called myself a self-love coach. And I think I'm even more than that. I suppose I'm a transformational coach and an intuitive coach. And my role is to help a woman home to herself. I guide her home to herself. I work with women who have this very strong sense that they don't know themselves and therefore don't love themselves. And, when you don't know and love yourself, you don't have that sense of self-trust. You don't have a sense of fulfillment and purpose in the world. Relationships are difficult. It's hard to be intimate with somebody else when you don't know how to be intimate with yourself.
That's a very good point.
Yeah. And I came to do this kind of work because, I guess my clients are me 10, 15, 20 years ago. I work with women who are me back then. And I wish in many ways that I had the support of somebody like me way back then. Obviously, I did get support, and it was the beginning of a really powerful journey and a discovery of myself and a deep spiritual awakening, which led me to wanting to help people. I mean, I used to be such a corporate girl and so corporate and, such a good girl. And I kind of followed, I knew what I was good at, and I got on and did that. And I really reveled in the accolades of being good at my career. I worked in international events management and tripped about the globe working on various Olympic Games and football World Cups and rugby World Cups and Grand Prix and you name it, I was kind of doing it. And so from the outside looking in, I really did, a lot of people have this story. I absolutely had it going on. I looked like I had the boyfriends, I had the career, I had the money, I had the adventure, it was all that. But I didn't have a sense of self. And I found not having a sense of self I didn't always have bad relationships. In fact, I've got some beautiful memories of very beautiful relationships. But the biggest relationship I guess I've ever had would be the relationship with the father of my child. And because I didn't know who I was, and from that, by the way, came anxiety and a level of depression, which nobody knew about. That was my own sort of private little secret. I think I was so used to living like that, I didn't even know it myself, quite frankly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this idea of not having a strong sense of self, not having an intimacy with myself or self-trust, meant that I was drawn into relationships, particularly this major relationship, looking for approval and looking for significance and looking to be loved. My source of significance and love and approval was always outside of myself. So my career totally ticked that box for many, many years. I would have been very cynical back then of the woman I am now, because I didn't get the whole personal development world. I didn't get meditation. I just was fairly closed off to all of that.
I was watching your TEDx London talk, and you had mentioned, you went into this just a tiny little bit, but you just said, sometimes when you hear yourself say that you're a self-love coach.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm like, how did that happen? How did I end up writing a book on this?
I love it.
How did I end up creating 4 meditation albums? Like, it blows my mind. And although I believe we all have a choice in all things, this career totally chose me. And it was like, I couldn't say no to it. I had to show other women how to deeply know and love themselves. When I realized you could change your experience of yourself and your life, and a major result of that is really super healthy, like really healthy relationships, because I suffered such pain in my relationships. When I realized it was possible to reprogram your mind and not be an emotional yo-yo and a total freaking nightmare, like I felt emotionally out of control a lot of the time, to realize that I didn't, and nobody has to experience that we can be shown a different way of doing life. Well, I was like, it's my duty, it's my responsibility. I have to do this work with other women.
That's amazing. I 100% can identify with how you describe yourself when you were going through all those other relationships, and really identifying with a title or a role or these accolades, these things that you work so hard for and you think they're so meaningful. And then something happens, like divorce or separation or a death or something that really triggers or shifts your world around. And suddenly you're looking at those things like, where is the peace inside of them, right? Where is the happiness inside of these things that kind of don't matter, especially when, the proverbial shit hits the fan, right?
Totally. And it's funny, as you were just speaking then, it kind of occurred to me, because I do have some memories, as I said, of a couple of significant relationships that were very special. And they were before my mum died. And so my mum committed suicide when I was 22. And when she died, I was in one of these very healthy relationships, and it continued on for a few years. But after that, my relationships thereafter, I functioned as a victim within the relationships, because, my mum killed herself, and it just opened up a can of worms for me. And so relationship became challenging for me. And I really did, on a whole new level, lose my sense of self and looked to the man to complete me and fulfill me. And that's a hell of a lot of pressure to put on another person. Right?
It really is. Right?
It's
when you
too much to expect from another human being.
Yeah.
So we have to learn to do that for ourselves.
And somehow women, I can't speak for all women. I've definitely been there, where I look for my happiness inside of a relationship with a man. There's nothing will ever be as fulfilling as trying to find that happiness inside of yourself. Right? When you stop looking to the outside world to fill in those spaces, to fill in those voids. Yeah. I've got lost from my childhood as well. And I think that I specifically was trying to find my happiness in friendships and with men. It's weird, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, you've gone through a divorce and are a single mother. I wanted to know if you wanted to share some of your story about that.
So, well, actually, funnily enough, we didn't ever get married.
I knew that. I was going to say
no, that's okay. I mean, we were engaged to be married. We were actually 3 months away from our wedding. So you can imagine, family from around the world had booked flights. The dress had been bought. The venue was booked. It was all planned. And I had a little boy. He was almost 2 at that point. And it was utterly heartbreaking and traumatic to end that relationship. but it occurred to me that it was a funny thing. There's something about committing to somebody for the rest of my life. I thought it was what I wanted. And I absolutely chose to have a child with him because that it did feel really good. And you could argue that a child is a lifelong commitment, which of course it is.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't occur to me until, we were getting closer and closer to the wedding day. And I realized this was my choice for the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. And interestingly, there were patterns in our relationship that were replaying over and over again, very much around codependency. So codependency being that piece where we look outside of ourselves for love and approval. Mm-hmm. And we need the other person to be okay so that we feel okay. So like I needed him to be okay all the time so that I felt okay, so that I felt safe. And then he would do the same with me. We were equally codependent. And there was a lot of super unhealthy behavior going on. I don't want to share too much about him because I don't think that's fair. But suffice to say, there were patterns repeating which were reminiscent of what I grew up with my parents. And and it was just unhealthy. I could just see that I was about to repeat my parents' marriage.
Oh gosh.
Like it was so textbook.
Yeah.
And I was about to repeat that.
And you saw this coming at you like a freight train.
Yeah. And I thought I could choose this. And, I'm sure we'd figure it out, but I wouldn't be signing up to a healthy relationship. I would be signing up to drama, and I would be signing up to kind of survival. And I could have done it. We can all survive. And I could have done it for my son. And I wanted to. Oh my God, I wanted to do it for him. I wanted him to have a secure family unit. I didn't want to be that woman that left, and I didn't want to be the single parent. In fact, my choice to leave was really tough because I had to walk away from our home. I left with nothing. I didn't even own cutlery. I had a bag of clothes and I had a bag of my son's clothes, and we had to start from scratch because his dad wasn't willing to leave the house. And we only just sold it, actually. 9 years later, we finally sold the house. So yeah, it was a really, really challenging time.
That's absolutely amazing. And were you still in your corporate job at that point?
So I wasn't, yes, sort of. I'd had a break for a couple of years while I'd had my son. And I had and this is definitely what gave me the confidence to make this decision. I had just about 3 or 4 months previous begun a part-time role. So back in the events world, it was a 2 or 3 day a week job where I was starting to earn a little bit of money. And that little bit of it wasn't a lot of money, but that little bit of independence sparked something in me that said, come on, Katie, you don't have to do life the way that was modeled to you. You've got to figure out a different way. And so I did. It was a big decision. And yeah, it didn't go down well with a lot of people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, well, it's funny, isn't it? People buy dresses and flight tickets and and it's funny how they're more concerned about that than the rest of my life.
Yes, actually, that's a really valid point, right?
I was like, we're talking about the rest of my life, people, and I get it. Like it's shitty,
wow,
but it needs must.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So then you became a single mother and you were doing your thing.
Yeah.
And it must have been really hard for you to manage both. I mean, your baby was so small.
Yeah, he was 2, and I, as I said, I did leave with nothing, and I didn't have a car, I didn't have any savings, and my mental and emotional health and actually protecting my son in many ways was my total focus. I stayed with friends for a while, and we kind of couch surfed, and then I found a place to live, a god awful, horrible little place, but it got me through the next 6 months. And then I went from frying pan into fire. So I actually, about 10 days, like, get this is a woman that does not know or love herself. 10 days after I left father of my child, I started dating somebody else. So and that relationship was it was utterly emotionally and mentally debilitating.
I would say, to be fair, you were probably terrified out of your mind of what was going to happen. So it probably was easy to jump into something with someone right away.
Thank you. And I can see that in retrospect. Yes, I was. I was terrified, and I didn't know how to be on my own. I mean, I had, of course, over the years, I'd had time on my own, and I traveled the world, and I was a pretty independent girl, but I was terrified of bringing up a child on my own. And I was terrified that I wouldn't afford rent. And I felt really lonely. Really lonely. And this man came in and swept me off my feet and wanted to rescue me in all senses of the word. And I went for it. It was like my life raft. Mm-hmm. And it actually ended up being very painful, but it was like the universe saying, okay, Katie, if you're not going to learn your lessons in that relationship, you're definitely going to learn them in this one. And that's something I would love to talk about is, there is a gift in everything. And I think all relationships are sent as an opportunity for us to learn something about ourselves and to grow. And we need to get the lesson before we move on. So I hadn't taken the lesson from that first relationship. I hadn't processed anything. I knew something about it wasn't right, but I hadn't really learned why I attracted that into my life. And then the next relationship really was like a slap in the face. And it said, this is what you're going to keep getting if you don't heal, if you don't address what's going on. So that was the beginning. That relationship was actually a huge gift. Because as terrible as it was, it was the making of me, and it was the beginning of an 8-9 year stretch of being utterly single and single parenting. But it freaking made me. Oh, wow. And it made my business. There was no one.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like it was the catalyst to who you are now. Yeah.
Huge catalyst. And, no one was paying my bills, and I had to make a go of my business. It was literally back up against the wall. How you got to make this work. Otherwise no one's going to rescue you, Katie. Wow. And it really did. And the focus of my business becoming, initially there was the first couple of years I was in training and learning, and I was doing a little bit of corporate and a little bit of training and learning to become a coach and go on to do what I now do. I signed up to showing women how to know and love themselves. And so that was my daily focus. Every single day, it was, how can I love myself today? Every day, how can I know myself more? What do I need to heal? What's the transformational piece? And I walked and talked it day in, day out. And I had to have my business be a success. Yeah.
Wow. This is fascinating. I love this. And there's something to be said for lighting a fire underneath you, not having any choice. You have to make it work. There's something to be said.
Yeah.
For love.
Yeah. I really didn't have a choice. There was, I've coached lots of women, and I've witnessed a lot of women be coached. And it's really interesting to notice those that have a fallback. I'm not saying this is the case for everybody, but a lot of women who maybe they don't really have to work. Maybe, their husband is bringing in some money and enough for them, or I don't know what the backup plan is, but if they have a financial backup plan, there's something in it that doesn't say they have to, not for all women. I really have to caveat that, because for a lot of women, the have to isn't financial. It's they're just so driven to, and that's part of my story too. Yes, financially, I freaking well had to, and now I don't have to. It's not a financial decision now. So now my life and my business has progressed to a place where I don't have to pay the bills. I have to, because I have to be part of the transformation of this planet. Like, I have to inspire women to be bigger, better versions of themselves. And I can't explain it. I just know it's my deep, deep calling. And if I'm not doing that in some way, I feel really unfulfilled. So like my motivation has shifted from survival into more thriving.
I was going to say, I completely understand that. When all of a sudden you wake up and there's this shift that says it's no longer about you and that you are sort of the person who brings the message, you feel compelled to do that. You feel drawn to do that. You can't go back to the world that you knew before. This is how I feel. I'm talking about how
I agree with you.
Oh, for sure. And I think when you're in service to other people, I think that this is the highest level of spiritual growth. I think that we can, well, maybe one of, but it's among the highest that we can achieve that makes us feel really connected to ourselves spiritually. So it's interesting when people find their way into this world this way.
Yeah.
Right?
Interesting, yes.
Yeah, because it's something catapulted you into it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Now, for women who, let's say when you're first going through divorce or separation and you're feeling those feelings of anxiety, exhaustion and hopelessness, like you're so uncertain about what's coming, but you have a dream. What would you say to women who are going through this and really desperately want to get out of that stuff and just move, what's the bridge that gets them from where they are to where they want to be?
I think everything begins with intention. And I wish I knew this when I left my son's father. I really wish I had this awareness. Because when I left, I expected it to be hard. I was terrified. I was so anxious. And because I expected it to be hard, because I just kind of drama was, of course, there was going to be drama. I expected it. So that's what was created. And that was my experience for many years. And I wish I had somebody back then say, Katie, set an intention that it will be easy, that it will be friendly, that it will be amicable, that rather than that it will be hard. I coach, many women who are going through divorce, and that's one of the first things we look at, because the conversations begin with them saying, it's so hard, and I can see that it's going to be really hard for the next year or the next 2 years, and we've got to do the financial arrangements, and that's going to be really hard, and managing the kids and splitting them between us is going to be really challenging. And of course they're going to think that. I mean, I'm not saying it isn't challenging. Of course it is. Yes. And of course there are many obstacles to overcome and conversations to be had and legal fees to pay, perhaps. I get it. I absolutely get it. I'm not taking away from the reality of that, but I think we need to remember that we are energetic beings, and that we can just setting an intention is an energetic process. And through that willingness that your experience of your divorce be easy, be kind, be friendly. I think through choosing that, I'm not saying it changes the other person overnight. If they're a difficult person, it's probably why you left or why it ended. But I do believe that when we set a willingness to experience something in a loving way, something far greater than us supports us to have that. And I know I've set intentions like that around other areas of my life, and I watch my clients set these intentions, and it really makes a big difference. Even to the degree that, if at the very least, if they just wake up every day feeling a little bit more optimistic because they're choosing that it be easy and kind today, rather than just, oh, it's going to be hard and full of drama and a nightmare. Like if that's your choice every day, then so it is. It just softens it somewhat, I think.
I absolutely love that you're talking about this, because I was the exact same as you. I knew that there was going to be drama. I knew I could handle it. I knew I could handle what was coming, even though I was terrified and I just thought it was going to be really super scary. If somebody would have said to me, set an intention for it, I probably would have cut that drama in half.
Yeah. Or choose, even the intention can be anything. It depends on your circumstances and your relationship. I mean, gosh, if I'd have chosen to drop the drama, just chosen right there and there. I mean, there was enough drama. If I'd just chosen, do you know what? Every day I'm dropping the drama. So I'm not engaging in those ridiculous conversations or those long text messages or the 7-page email rants. It's just not helpful. If I chose every day to not engage in the drama, I probably would have saved myself thousands in legal fees.
Yeah. Sleep. You probably would have.
Yeah. And I might have even saved a couple of friendships, because I'm pretty sure a couple of my very dearest friends couldn't be around the drama. And that was the end of those friendships.
Oh, so,
wow. That was a big learning curve for me, actually. Really big learning curve.
That's amazing. There's also something to be said for the the energy transference. I do believe that when we set a good intention and we do visualizations and we do meditations, and the sending and receiving of energy does happen. And I really do think that those good intentions and those healthy feelings toward the other person can really soften them.
It really can. Like, I've seen it again and again. I've seen it in my own life. I think when you choose that on a soul level, healing can occur. Yeah, but there's no getting away from the fact that in the early days of divorce and, a relationship, or for me, we didn't actually divorce, but, we still had a house to sell, which took 9 years, and we still had finances to sort out, and we still had a child between us. They're all big things. We just didn't have to do the actual paperwork. But, going through that process brings up stuff. Like it brings up a lot, and it's valid to feel what we need to feel about all of that. You can't rush to a place of forgiveness and compassion and acceptance. Those early days are full of emotion, and it needs to be acknowledged. And while you're going through that, why not just set the intention to choose to be kind to yourself? Choose that it be easy. Choose that you drop the drama, because it's freaking hard enough as it is.
Yeah. Right? Why add fuel to the fire and make your life so
add
much
to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
like
really
let go of the autopilot, because we are on autopilot when we do that. We just society says divorce is a nightmare, and and so it is. So why not choose something else?
Absolutely. One last thing I wanted to talk about, and this is something that you and I were addressing earlier, is one of our biggest fears coming out of divorce and separation is this fear of being alone forever.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit.
I actually think that a fundamental piece of just simply being human, a fundamental fear is that we will end up alone. It's a really interesting one that I explore with a lot of my clients, and I've absolutely experienced it time and time again in my own life. And in my experience, actually, I have experienced my most aloneness and loneliness within a dysfunctional relationship. I can be in a relationship, but I've never felt so alone. And we're so scared of being alone. We need people. We need love. We need collaboration to survive. We can't survive on our own, is the truth.
Yeah, it's the truth.
And fundamentally, we kind of know that. And so I think it's really super important that we acknowledge that, first of all, that that's part of the human condition, and acknowledging it without any judgment. It's very understandable and natural. And then choose not to look outside of ourselves for the solution to that fear of being alone, to become our own best friend, to choose to be your most trusted confidant, to really be there for you. It's a really interesting one to kind of put into words. Like when I think about it, if I just close my eyes now for a second and just tune into my relationship with me, if I put my hand on my heart and really feel my relationship with me, it's so, I have been cultivating it for several years now, and it's so special. It's like when I know I've got me, it's almost like I have another person. It's quite a bizarre thing to explain. But as I'm sat here with my eyes closed and tuning into my relationship with me is almost like another person. It's like I've got my soul level Katie, and I've got my human level Katie. And my humanness, which is so scared of being on her own, is comforted by her soul, which is just energetically so much more. And actually on a soul level, utterly always connected to everyone and everything else. So I am never alone. So when I'm plugged in and connected to my spiritual self, I have this sense of peace that just kind of knows that I'm connected to all things. So developing that very trustworthy relationship with yourself, where you can always really rely on you, is really important. And I know that when you're in a victim space, and I know certainly when I was going through my, let's call it divorce, you do fall into victim. It is a bit, perhaps a lot, poor me. Why is everything so shit? It's also hard, yada, yada. oh, right. So now you're telling me I have to be there for me, like no one else is going to be there for me. You know, it's like that. It's like, oh, right. Another thing I have to do on my own is like be there for me. Yeah. But actually, I really would invite anyone listening who's thinking like that to kind of lean on me with their faith that this is true. Like we have got to cultivate such a deep, special friendship with ourselves, a deep intimacy with ourselves. If we're ever going to go into a healthy relationship in the future, we need to have that healthy relationship with ourselves first. Mm-hmm. And really, whoever we attract into our lives, whatever relationships, whether it's an intimate relationship or a colleague or a friend or whatever, the people in our life reflect back to us where we are at within ourselves.
Yes.
So when you are deeply connected and loving with yourself, you will attract relationships that reflect that back too. And that's what we want. And then we don't feel alone. But it starts with us, doesn't it?
Everything you just said on this entire topic of feeling alone or scared of being alone was so beautifully put. Thank you for that.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
This has been such an amazing interview with you. Thank you for sharing so much. Did you have a free gift that you want to offer listeners today?
Yes, you'll have the link to direct them to receiving a meditation that I created called True Self, which really does link in really nicely with what we were just speaking about, actually. Yeah. So it's perfect. It's a 15-minute guided visualization that I would recommend you do every day. And it really helps you to connect with the truth of you and begin to develop that special relationship with yourself. And I would love to suggest that if you go over to the website, theschoolofself.love, you scroll down, you'll see there's a little video of me. Mm-hmm. And I'm inviting you to sign up to receive a 7-part video training series, which is called Love Bites. So you receive a love bite every day for 7 days, which is really helping you to begin your self-love affair. Yeah.
Oh, I absolutely love it. I told you that earlier. Love bites.
Love bites.
Well, thank you so much. This is amazing. Absolutely adore you. I love talking to you.
I love you too. Thank you for having me.
Thank you again. Thank you to everybody who's listening. You're listening to the Thriving After Divorce radio show. I am your host, Tanya Marie Dubé, and we will catch you next time. Bye, everybody. Bye, Katie.
Bye.
Thank you again so much for joining us on the Thriving After Divorce radio podcast. We're coming to you every Monday morning so that you can start your week with intention and some powerful advice for what you're dealing with. So please subscribe to this podcast and share it with your friends and your family. My goal is to help change 1 million lives with this work, because when you teach a woman, you teach an entire community. Everybody benefits and the love spreads. So please feel free to comment, review, share, and like. With your help, I know I can reach this goal. So have a beautiful day, and we will see you next week.